Oh, come on. No, YouTube isn't playing ball today. Hmm. Offline. Streaming. Okay. All right. I guess we're streaming now. I'm so sorry, people tuned in on Kick and Rumble. And for you guys on YouTube that may have just tuned in just now, because we are back on YouTube. It is a nightmare, a living nightmare. The light. The light. There we go. We're live again. But my beautiful thumbnail is not being displayed. But hey, I can live without that. Okay, fingers crossed we don't get disconnected from YouTube again. Let me just drop the link for that in the Discord chat room. I don't really ever have problems like this. It makes me a little paranoid. Because I have been running my mouth on YouTube about some touchy subject matter. Fingers crossed. Yep, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so this is 13 minutes, right? I only really started to capture this video when the posture of these guys changed. And they started to scooch up a little further in the road. Now, I have to wonder, what is the deal with this body language, you know? Let me... Yeah, I can magnify that. Brilliant. Not the best quality. Ah, look, there's Ivan or Ivor, depending on... I'm not sure what his name is, but an absolute legend, an icon, if I say. Now, there's a bit of kind of... a bit of admonished school child in the principal's office look. They're a bit lackadaisical. They're almost not sure what they're doing there, or maybe they're not even happy that they're there in the first place. And personally, I wouldn't be. What's the story? I was in Dublin all day and night yesterday. It was fucking deadly, says Trudeau must go in the chat. I'm here. The weather is atrocious over the country. Yep. Shadow banned to fuck. Yeah, I think that's what might be going on. Yeah. We're because something happened today, and if there isn't a interruption in streaming services and such, then I would be quite shocked, really. I need to update the tip jar to reflect a generous $10 donation during the convoy stream by an Irish American. You know, totally unprompted. Just out of the goodness of his heart. He thought, here, have something towards petrol. Well, of course, he called it gas. which shows just how far away from the kingdom he is. Let me catch up with the chat, actually, and we'll go back to videos later. We have Vaughn in the house. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Trudeau must go. And Dr. Crispy, nice to see you. Who I notice is not around is Karen, whose birthday it is that we're supposed to be celebrating. Trudeau must go. Dublin people are the nicest people. I think so. I think they're the nicer of the lot. But don't tell my family I said that. No, actually, hang on. Second nicest. Belfast people are absolutely lovely. Butter wouldn't melt in their mouths. But yes, I hear you. Sorry, I had a crisis of conscience there for a second. Cool. All right. So you were in Dublin. Did the fellas in Dublin leave this morning because it was declared that there's going to be negotiations with the government at 2:30, which were like that was 6 hours ago, almost, and we haven't heard anything about that, have we? There wasn't any announcements one way or another, like we came to an agreement or we met a deadlock. Nothing like that. Nothing that I heard anyway. All eyes were on Whitegate. They're lovely all over the country. Yeah. Sure. But some have a bit of a fucking edge about them. Might be back tomorrow if I can scrape money together. Good job, man. Good job. Liz Pepper, nice to see you in the chat. Yeah, so that's what I want to know. Did they leave in the morning on foot of the idea that there was going to be negotiations with the protest group? Because I have a few questions going around in my head over the past few hours. No, don't think so. Well, you were there, so unless you saw them pack up and say, right, let's go home, pending the outcome of the... Well, that wouldn't... You wouldn't do that, would you? Drive all the way back home, only to drive back? Maybe I just heard some misinformation. Vaughn says the Gov did not want to talk to the real protesters and only engaged with the left-leaning unions. No, they didn't leave. Staying put. Thank you, Liz Pepper. All right, so that's the thing. Morgan made a great point in our Discord chat 2 days ago or something, and it clicked a lot of things into my head, right? He said the government would not want to be seen capitulating to like these minor groups, and that's what the movement, I'm just going to call it the movement, right, is seen as, is just some fart in the wind whimsy, like oh, we're going to protest against what's happening in Palestine, or maybe a really, really watered down version of the water protests. Or if you go back further in time, the Rossport 5, I think. Just the the Rossport situation with the oil and gas field that we sold to Shell for a packet of crisps. the protests were like on a weekly basis, and it really came to a head when 5 farmers were arrested and imprisoned, like without any due process, on the whim of a foreign corporation. Like these are facts, you know. What they were doing was they were protecting their own land against some kind of weird, non-existent Irish version of eminent domain. Ah, Karen in the chat, the birthday girl. Cheers to you. Many happy returns. I said I'd think of something, but I didn't because my brain stopped working several hours ago. I'm sorry, but the consolation prize is that it's an important day. And it's on your birthday. The day that the regime lost legitimacy. Even John McGurk, a man that I when I think about agreeing with on anything, I get douche chills, right? He said, and he was a bit dramatic about it. Let me get the exact quote here, because it was a bit much, you know. All right. So an article that he published on X, as opposed to, you know, on Gript, he said, "In my lifetime, an Irish government has never faced a crisis of legitimacy and authority on this scale in the face of ongoing and escalating fuel price protests. The Irish government currently has two ... I didn't read any further than that, but you know what? Credit where it's due. The man isn't completely brain dead. So this is an important birthday for you, Karen. The old empire is crumbling." Don't oversell it, Vaughn. And we will look back on the Gardaí, and you can see it written across their faces. Now, we have to ask ourselves, who is it that's behind this movement? Never mind who runs it, who started it, who controls it. That is, those are important questions. We will get to them, or we will, you know, muse upon them, because that's kind of the best that we can do. But who is behind it? Now, I had this beautiful thumbnail made for YouTube, and it didn't work. It didn't come up. It was beautiful. It was fantastic. Look at this. I took this as a screenshot, just serendipity. I just thought, this is amazing. I'm going to screenshot this from Gary Soul's stream earlier today. Up right there in the corner. That's Ivor, or Ivan. Not quite sure who his name is, but he is now a symbol. Okay? You see, you had the line of Gardaí there. And here you have this oil tanker. I'm not sure what it contained. Probably petrol or something like this. And he climbed on top of it and waved around his... occasionally waved around his tricolour behind the Garda lines and shouted, "Fuck the globalists." And it got the crowd going, you know. It did the job. Now, I posted that image. Actually, I made Ivan my profile picture on Facebook, and my aunt of my Republican side of the family came along, laugh reacted to it, and then in comments, hashtag Ivan. This is breached containment. This is no longer a easily pegged demographic thing where, they've done it so far with, these are just the farmers. Farmers, the farmers. Look at what the farmers are doing. Don't you hate the farmers? Right? But here you have support coming from the left, the right, and sadly, the left and the right are both busy accusing each other of infiltrating this movement. I'm sure there's many chefs in this kitchen. Some of them should know their place, and some of them should just leave. But still, you have those contingents, you have people of varying backgrounds, varying age groups and classes behind the demands laid out by the protesters. Checking the chat. She's 21. Are you, Karen? I'm over. Who's that? Karen says, I'm over the hill, but don't feel it. That's the best way to be, right? Because it happens, time. I hear that it only goes forward. And yet, although we may develop spiritually and emotionally and mentally, and we're just, we're not children, we still feel like we're in our 20s. Maybe our bodies don't respond like they used to. They might ache in ways that they didn't last year, but still in here and in here. Ivan was arrested. Well, I mean, it's baptism by fire is what it is. Can we get any kind of connection with Ivan and make sure that he's okay? Because, wasn't there a guy who was died horribly in Garda custody recently? It happens. If once every 3 months ish, someone dies in the custody or directly after the custody of the Royal Irish Constabulary. So I would also be interested in in any way possible taking care of him. Trudeau must go, says, oh right, I gave my blanket to a homeless woman from Dublin. It was her 50th birthday. Aw. She needed it more than me. God bless her. Well, that's what this is about, There was a lot of gifts recently of food and water and possibly other things, non-perishable things, given out to these guys in O'Connell Street. The nominal leader that was on RTE, which I find strange, came out and said that, we received burgers or something. I forget what exactly. And he said, I just distributed them to the homeless. But personally, I wouldn't do that because I guess I'm just classist. I don't know, maybe. But that's what he did. Look, it's give it forward, If you have it, and if you no longer need it, pass it along. And that's a beautiful thing. And this is what's shining through in this movement. I'm going to call it the movement from now on. I don't want to say protesters. This is more than protest. This is yellow vest level shit that's going on here, right? Who's coming first according to the movement? Hospitals, ambulances, water treatment chemicals were coming out without a bother from the ports and the refinery. The essentials that keep things running. Humanity is what seems to be at the forefront of the movement. It's a beautiful thing. And it's something that's being unlocked in our people. If we can just let it wash over us, you know, give it a good college try, as opposed to, I mean, you know, you're going to have degrees of cynicism and politicking. But let this be a vehicle for something more beautiful than, you know, the misery. You know, the fucking abject misery that is being Irish in 2026. I was driving home from the convoy today, and I was thinking, good God, I love my country, and I do love a overcast, rainy day, but I can't do it right now. Can I just live in a country where, like, it's just either or? Either rain, 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 or tyranny. You know, I'll be happy if I just had one, but not two at once. And that shit weighs on a person's psyche, you know. Yeah, Karen. Nice of you, good man, in response to Trudeau. Sad she's homeless over this regime. Yeah, so, yeah, she was a lovely woman too. Saoirse in the chat. Good to see you. I bought a bit of hash up there. No, why did I read that out? Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay, you need to not put that on my screen, yo. Saoirse says going to say quiet tonight, tired. Yeah, well, you do that. You worked very hard today. I'm exhausted. Morgan's exhausted, having come all the way from Cork to Wexford. Where was Ivan? Cork? Yes, Cork. On top of the tanker in Cork. Too bad that Gary's microphone was waterlogged, so you couldn't really hear what was going on, what was being spoken about, which, you know, is a good thing, because you don't want the intimate conversations of the movement to kind of break out into the internet where the RIC can hear it. But it would have been lovely to hear Ivan shouting, "Fuck the globalists." Now, this is a statement both left and right can get behind in Ireland. I'm not talking about the left who wants to, you know, do all the stuff that we know, you know, like transing children, bringing in the whole of the third world, all that stuff. Arrest clip in Discord. Good. Lovely, thanks. Let's immortalize him. It's something we can all get behind. Fuck the globalists. Okay. Okay. Niall McConnell. You know, he's not half bad, that Niall McConnell, with his sacks of potatoes. I am going to download this video from Shorts because it is a pain in the hole playing Shorts on a stream with the browser. It's just finicky. There we go. We'll have that, please. Thank you. This is how you get ahead in Irish society, right? This is how you become a leader. The absolute out there extreme version of that is martyrdom, right? Where you show that you're totally committed to your cause by dying. Well, not just dying, but being killed. I mean, you know, that leads nowhere because, you know, you're dead, right? But another way to be a hero, to be... And what I mean by hero is someone who's worth following, who's worth listening to, is you earn your stripes by suffering. You know, that's a completely legitimate thing. And this is what Ivan is going to go through right now.
Well done, Ivor. Well done, Ivor.
Ivor. So we're calling him Ivor. Okay, not Ivan. Fine. Alright, yeah. That's the way to do it. You know, he didn't go out fighting. He was, you know, he put up a resistance. Yeah, but... when it came time to surrender himself, that's what he did. You know, he handed himself over because that's the honorable thing to do. It's kind of like throwing your body on the gears of the machine and letting it rough you up a little to prove a point. Again, the extreme version of that is martyrdom, and that's what the Iranians are into, you know. Yeah, kill me for my country so I can prove to you, so I can prove to the world what horrible people you are. Thank you for that, Dr. Crispy. Karen says, I'm just eating my bacon, cabbage, and spuds. Oh, lovely. Don't talk too much about food right now. I haven't had the energy to make myself a good meal. Now my hob and cooker got wired in, so I was late making dinner. Very good. You got an upgrade. Trudeau Misco says the right is full of Zionists, so fuck the right as well. Agreed. You know, the way to go is third positionist, fourth positionist. Because these are designations that were made up in the French Revolution. You know, it's the how you have your republic parliaments designed is you have one side and you have the other side. One's left and one's right. and we, you know, model our relationships off of that now. You know, in as far as we allow politics to dictate our relationships, we reduce each other to left and right. And when really that's not helpful at all. It just isn't. I don't need to explain. None of us need to explain why that statement is true. Because the burden of proof is on the side that says, no, actually, left and right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, where has that gotten us? Exactly. Divide and conquer land is where it got us. Listening to Howard's calm voice. I'm calm? Jeez, Louise. You have a very high tolerance for excitability, don't you? Dr. Crispy says, what can they charge him with? Climbing on a tanker? Oh, yeah. That's a good question. The left and Zionist right are all PDF files. I mean, there's patterns, Earlier. Oh, you know what? I think I'm in love. Right. On Twitter, I saw this latest AI video that Iran made making fun of the US's incursion to save the pilot, but they were really looking for uranium dust or whatever Trump was talking about. Saoirse said I had an excellent training ground. Grim stuff. I was watching it and I thought, well, this is garbage. So I responded with meh. And someone who, likes Iran, or at least sees that Iran is on the side of good, came along with, what do you call that child in The Simpsons? I'm in danger. This statement, Iran is evil because the TV told me. I said, whoa, wait, you're jumping to conclusions here. I'm just saying that video sucks. She came back to me and said, well, you know what, I've just seen a lot of pro-Palestine accounts that are, like in on the Zionist bullshit about Iran. Like, whoa, wow, really? Okay. Like the left-wing mind, when it goes into that little crevice of delusion, is so easily manipulated. To think a grand country and civilization such as Iran is like, what, I don't know, a bunch of barbarians throwing stones at each other or something. Reckless endangerment. Okay, that's, yeah, thank you, Morgan. That's you hit the nail there. By the way, whenever you want to hop in, we can have a chat. It's been a while, Karen says, that's why I eat bacon purposely, unkosher, unhalal. Jeez Louise. All right, let's return to our Ungardi Síochána. Sorry, that is not their name. Their name is the Royal Irish Constabulary. As back in the old days. This is a definitive piece of video, and I'd like to congratulate Gary Soul on capturing it. It's a statement. These people are not happy. They're not happy to be there. They're cold. They're wet. They don't necessarily believe in what they're being told. Okay? I guess we could pull up footage from Newtown Mount Kennedy, or Kulak. Like, this is the GPU, right? This is the guys that they bring in to beat grannies with batons and pepper spray women from like 10 feet away. Like, that's how powerful their pepper sprays are. It's like a fucking garden hose when you squeeze it. Look at this. What kind of, like, what is this? You see nothing like this in other examples of the what is the RPU, whatever the fuck they're called. They should be standing up straight, looking ahead, and being menacing. Because let's be honest, that's why they're there. You know? It's not just to keep the Irish people away from blocking the refinery. It's to scare the shit out of them. PSNI. Yeah, look, okay, all right. You can say PSNI, but, you know, then people get confused, right? And they think that you're talking about the North. So that's why I call them the Royal Irish Constabulary, like in the 1800s. Like in the North, the Royal Ulster Constabulary. You see the naming convention there? They are fighting for Brussels or Israel. Yeah, you got it there. You got it there. Morgan says, be with you shortly, just getting out of wet clothes. Jesus, you haven't done that already? What, are you only home? Oh, you poor soul. Because Morgan was there with Gary and with the crew and keeping notes. He has a lot of notes. We'll pick his brains about that. Is this really the fellas that you want to send? And again, I'll remind you, this beautiful man, Ivor, mounted a chemical tank and stood on top of it and waved his tricolour and said, fuck the globalists. And while these guys were miserable and wet, just looking here, looking there, breaking rank, looking behind them for no fucking reason, you had the Irish people going, yeah! Whoa! I think I should link Gary Soul's live stream, actually. That's the thing to do. Discord call in, yes. Yes, and it will take a minute to set up, but we can do it. The heavy gang. Yeah, not very heavy. You know, do I need to belabor this point any further? The regime has lost face here. You know, they really fucked up by sending these guys in to be specials. Yeah. And Morgan, do take your time. I'm not rushing you. I just thought that you were home a lot longer. Make yourself a good cup of tea and have a cigarette if you haven't already. You know, chill. You know. So a lot of people are saying, look, why don't you just sit down and talk to these people? Referring to the government, of course, you know, all the 90% of the rage is directed towards Micheál Martin. You know, this black hole that just sucks up all of Ireland's shame and sucks up all the failures, in quotes, failures of the regime, and somehow transmutes them into fresh air. You know, he's like the Teflon Taoiseach. Actually, you know what, Morgan? We will call each other on Discord rather than use the the audio channel. So let me know, and I'll find you on Discord and do that. There's calls for his resignation. And the resignation of basically his whole cabinet, pretty much. Leaving aside how stupid that idea is to begin with. Sorry if you know, I didn't mean to insult you. If you have that belief, but let me, I'll explain that to you later. Jesus Christ, I'm a prick, am I? But just take that for what it's worth. That a lot of people out there are saying, hang on a minute. Why don't you just have a conversation? What is your problem? Something broke today where people thought to themselves, this isn't a real government. And here in our chat, in this live stream, we all kind of, know that already. We have known that for quite a while, but most people haven't. Or they've been playing with the idea. Sorry, my only source of light after the sun goes down are candles. Still haven't replaced that LED strip. That's what the tip jar goal is for, by the way. What was I in the middle saying? Sorry, I'm exhausted. The fact that that can't be done just kind of sealed the deal for a lot of people, And you have this increasing town square effect where we're all in the town square and we can all hear what each other are saying. And we're recognizing, hey, you're saying the same thing as I am. So I know what you mean when you say that, and you know what I mean when I say that same thing. So that I know that you know that I know, and vice versa. So that means that we can do something about it. Okay, so we're not at the point of yellow vests. Give it time. This is why I have a problem with these armchair generals. There was a few of them in Gary Soul's live chat saying, oh, you should do this, you should do that. Oh, this sucks. This is boring. Hello? What are you doing? Going back to feats and how you gain the prestige of being a leader. What have you done? What have you done that makes you think that you can talk this way about what other people are doing? You might not agree with what they're doing, but unless it's like something horrible, like murdering a child or robbing from a granny, then you have no fucking place to complain. Dr. Crispy said, a few of them looked behind and smiled at Ivor on the tanker. That's another level of this. I don't think the Gardaí are into to this at all. Going back to the point of, like, this has transcended demographics, right? A few days ago, like, I think it was Wednesday or Tuesday, on Facebook in Galway, right? The outlet, Outback Jacks, they sell, like, outdoor stuff. You know, if you want to climb a mountain or if you want to go kayaking, you know, you go to Outback Jacks, right? Want a decent pair of boots to, you know, climb a mountain with, or guy cables or something. A video of the convoy passing through Galway near their outlet. And said, yeah, go on. Like, when have you heard of this reaction to a movement before? Why was the local McDonald's in O'Connell Street giving food to the protesters? A spell has been broken because we have found a commonality. And it fucking scares the regime, man. That's why they're acting fucking weird. The funny thing is that there's a bit of a parallel here with Donald Trump. This guy bit off more than he could chew. Like our so-called leaders, I call them the managers of the regime, take their orders from someone else. So does Trump. Who's far right now? Made stupid decisions. Trump picked a fight with not a country, a fucking civilization. An empire. Granted, in its current form, it's like a third of the size that it once was at its peak, right? Persia once controlled Greece, modern day Greece, right? Crazy. Anatolia, you know, that those areas that we consider to be Turkish and Ottoman was priorly ruled by Persia. And the only reason why they have what they have left is because the outline of their country as it is a fucking mountain. And that's where they live, on a fucking mountain. It's a gigantic mountain. This guy thought he'd pick a fight with this thing that transcends him and his ancestors. And in response to losing, he has been progressively freaking the fuck out, making all sorts of statements, threatening genocide, war crimes, the lot. And now you have this regime here at home, and they're saying, no, we're not going to talk to these people because they're the little people. We're going to talk to these pre-approved organizations who fit into the cubbyhole that we have created for them so that they aren't a threat to us. That's beautiful, Dr. Crispy. There's something also that they share in common, and that's Zhuang. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but it is a beautiful idea, right? And it comes from chess, where your opponent makes such a move, a series of moves, that you are in a situation where whatever move you make, you're fucked. So the regime in an alternate universe today sits down with the protesters and hears them out. What happens? They accept a good chunk of their demands. And I think there's some method to the madness here of like, well, one of our demands, actually, we've added this one. We want to develop an oil field, an offshore gas field, rather. You aim for the stars and you land on the moon. I think so. That's just a theory. I'm not sure what to think of these people, but I'm beginning to think that's possible. That's part of the thinking. I think we're dealing with very shrewd people here. So the regime says, okay, so we'll cut the carbon tax. What happens? Well, first of all, they get in trouble with their overlords in Brussels. And then they can't back out of that, because if they do, then there'll actually literally be hell to pay. It will be Bastille Day, right? Because you can't make a promise like that and go back on it. Or, yeah, they tell the EU to go get fucked. But what happens is we stop believing in them. Or they reject everything except, we'll give you 5% off of the carbon tax. And then what happens? Well, we get even more angrier. And the regime, again, loses more legitimacy. But that's not the alternative reality that we live in. The reality that we live in today is that they didn't meet with the protesters. And this is the finesse, the political finesse. This guy on RTE, I think the day before, invited himself to this negotiation. I don't think any of these unions said, yeah, come along, yeah, sure, why not, just for the crack, No, that's not how these people operate. He invited himself. And who is that douchebag? What is he? The minister for, I don't know, and I don't care about these figureheads, right? But he was put on the spot. And the only thing that he could do was answer like a politician and say, well, I'm unaware. Like he's on the stand for murder. To the best of my knowledge, I did not eat spaghetti bolognese on the night of the murder. He said, I don't know, maybe they'll bring the protesters. I don't know. It's not up to me. So, his thing then was, well, I've invited myself. So that puts them in a position of where they can either bring me along or they reject me. And if they reject me, then there's the false promise. There's a broken promise. And it wasn't a promise. The government didn't say we're going to meet with the protesters. It was just put into people's minds that it was possible. And that fucked them. Zhuang. Donald Trump. What does he do? Does he legitimately make peace with the Iranians, which means dropping all sanctions, letting them do whatever the fuck they like in Hormuz, and getting rid of all US bases? Well, I mean, not rebuilding the US bases in the Arab Gulf place, area, region. That's a bad idea. What is also a bad idea is going full on into war with Iran. That's a very bad idea. Like, he's fucked both ways. It's just interesting. Just a thought. Trudeau Must Go says, I'm proud I went on Thursday. I want to go back. That's beautiful, man. That is absolutely beautiful. Proud. And proud of yourself, you should be. Okay, so I'm going to take a leak, and when I get back, I will bring Morgan on. So I'm going to mute myself here and play a little music. Back in a bit, folks. Oops, sorry. A little bit of a delay in the music. Because I'm not going to leave you with complete silence. That's streaming suicide right there. All right, back in a minute, folks.
Driving down the quiet street, lights so bright they blind my eyes. Everywhere I turn they shine, too much glow it makes me sigh. Can't see the way, it's hard to breathe. Frustration builds, I'm lost in the night. Oh, 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 please lower your beams. Oh, 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 can't you see my dreams? Every car that passes by feels like a flash, it dim my soul. Hearts racing fast, fear takes hold. Searching for peace, we're losing my calm. Drivers just don't care at all. Pull the shade, I need to feel whole.
Speaking of which, I'm going to do some research into how to push for LED headlights in cars to be seriously curbed or just gotten rid of altogether. Let me find Morgan. Hold on. I haven't ever used Discord this way. Add friend, I guess. Oh wait, message. Okay. Can I call him? Okay, Morgan, can you accept my friend invite and see, because I think that's the only way that I can call you on Discord. Oh no, wait, no. Video call. Oh no, that's grayed out, I guess. Oh, nope, it works. Okay. Brilliant. All right, so I'm video calling Morgan. I don't know if he wants to, show us a video. It's up to him. But again, if you're just joining us, he was down in Whitegate in Cork. Failed to start camera. Oh.
No. I look like a fucking sailor who's been lost at sea for 6 days. I don't hang on. Oh, your camera. Okay.
Oh, okay. So I guess.
Huh, I don't need to say anything. I'm so tired and wet and fucking
Okay.
weary. Can you hear me?
Yeah. And the viewers can hear you too.
All right, cool.
All right. So what I'm gonna try to do is share. What am I sharing? Fuck me. All these fucking windows, man. Oh yeah, I can scroll that list. Okay, well that makes a difference, doesn't it? All right. How are you feeling after your voyage?
Oh, yeah, tired. Not exhilarated. It's just an overwhelming feeling of tiredness because I'm an old cunt now. And the weather, like, what's wrong with this fucking country?
Oh my
Like, how
God.
can it rain for 4 fucking months? Like, I can't believe it. Like, so it was great this morning because it was kind of, I left Wexford. It was sunny, living up to the name of, sunny southeast, which I think is a fucking marketing ploy anyway, because it's never that sunny anyway. But it was great because there was no traffic on it. It was like a ghost town, really, from Wexford the whole way to Cork. Pretty much a ghost town, kind of reminiscent of COVID. Anybody who had to travel to long distances to work, very few cars on the road, which was great. But oh, for fuck, what's happened there?
Oh no, I'm just
Did something
sharing
drop?
a screen with you. That's all.
Oh, perfect.
All
Excellent.
right.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so just a lot of fucking rain, and I mean heavy rain. And I've been to Cork a lot in the last kind of year and a half, and I'm never happy when I go to Cork, because I usually go to Cork City, which is a shithole. It's really like a very, very poor relation of Dublin. But we were in the kind of countryside and on the coastline today. So that was nice. So we drove into Cork. We got there about I think close enough to like 10 o'clock. So again, very quiet. We drove up to the gate of the oil refinery first, just to kind of get our bearings.
Was the gate
At that
white?
stage, you could still drive. You could drive. So again, sorry, the line's a bit bad. Was the gate what?
Was the gate white?
Was
Sorry.
the gate white? No,
I'm
it
being
was an Irish gate in so
Oh.
much as there wasn't actually a gate, but it's referred to as a gate. And maybe there used to be a gate there, but it's not there anymore. So very, very Irish type of gate, a metaphysical gate almost, So we got up there anyway, drove around. All the kind of trucks and tractors were parked either side of the road. And then up to the left is the actual entrance up to the refinery. And that was physically blocked with the large, for people seeing it, the large trucks with the kind of trailers tipped up to make them more difficult to use. So parked the car, stayed in the car for 10 minutes, building up the courage to get out in the fucking pissing, horrible rain. So got out, wandered up, had a walk around first without the cameras, because as you and I know, when for some strange reason, when people have protests in Ireland, and if you go to report on it with a camera, you're immediately considered horribly suspicious, because people generally in Ireland like to keep protests private, which is a fucking mystery to me, because the whole purpose really of a protest is to get the fucking word out. So it becomes national news and then other people can come to your aid. But no, again, we're a very conservative people. So I left the camera in the car. Gary left the cameras in the car. I walked up to the tents. There was two kind of marquee areas where all the protesters were. And so I walked into the tent, start talking to people, saying, "Hey, listen, I'm such and such. I'm going to be walking around with some cameras. Just let me know if there's anybody, doesn't want to be on camera. There's no problem. I won't put people's faces on cameras." And then it's like, okay, well, this guy must be a fucking undercover cop or something, because nobody wants to fucking say a word. And so I said, right, that's the last time I'm ever fucking doing that in future. I'm not going to talk to any protesters at the protest. I'm just going to fucking go with the camera, do what I have to do, and that's it. So anyway, back to the car, got the cameras, walked up, got to lay up the land, pretty much like I said. So we stay there for maybe 10, 20 minutes. No sign of the guards at all. In any big numbers, a couple of marked Garda cars, driving up and down the main thoroughfare, keeping an eye on everything. A couple of unmarked Garda cars, a black Skoda, and then another kind of work van that had guards in it, but very, very small numbers. Then come about 10:30. That's when the kind of convoy, is what it was. It was a large convoy of Garda vehicles drove into the town. So you could see them coming from the top of the hill, the lights flashing and sirens blaring. So I counted, I think it was like 14 Garda vans in total, 3 public order units, and then 15 Garda cars, various marked and unmarked cars. So then I said, okay, well, it's going down. So when the public order unit generally shows up, it's for one purpose, and that's, as we know, to beat people off the streets and get them out of the way. And in this situation, to get the petrol, diesel, kerosene out of the refinery, and to get the oil in. That's, there's a lot of oil waiting to go in to be refined into various products, which I think is new for a lot of people, because a lot of people have been told that, or might have this idea that the petrol comes in ready packaged, and the same with the diesel. So that's what a lot of people have been told, like, oh, well, we can't get any of this into the country because the majority of it comes from the Middle East, which it doesn't. But that's not to say that doesn't have any effect. There seems to be a misunderstanding between people how things actually work, even though 20% seems like a small number, that has knock-on effect. I don't mean to be condescending to people listening, but
no, I had no clue either. Like, yeah, I you know what? When I heard,
don't
when I heard about Whitegate, I was like, we have a refinery?
I know, right? So why would you need to know this? Like, it's only like important for fucking citizens to know how their country runs and stuff. Like, it's like, you would take in a sane society, you would kind of learn this stuff in school, maybe some sort of citizenship class about how the country fucking runs, what you need to actually do and be to be an actual active citizen, so you can have an idea how your country should run, what are the requirements to make it run smoothly, and what you could possibly do in advance of such crises to prevent such things happening and chaos ensuing fucking everywhere. But no, go to school, learn how to count to 20, do a bit of multiplication, division, and learn some ropey history, and you're good to go, and sit down for 8 hours a day and be quiet and don't dare ask a question. That seems good enough for our education system for the longest fucking while. But in any event, so we do have this refinery, and the refinery, apparently like 40 to 50% of all our kerosene, diesel, and petrol is refined in that refinery. And so it is, as I say, it's critical infrastructure. And if the government does want the country to continue to run as present, well, then it can be said to be justified in getting that refinery reopened again. But it's not that fucking simple, and everybody knows it's not that simple. But from a governmental point of view, to run the state properly, not that they run the state properly, it's going to be a lot of qualifiers here, because people are very fucking jumpy at the moment and get very upset if anybody's seen to be, making a point that goes against the general, people's general fucking political leanings. It's like, oh, well, you're clearly a leftist, or you're clearly a fucking rightist, or it's all very tense and fraught at the moment. But they would need to get that reopened, get the petroleum products that are in there out onto the market, so people can, you know, start filling up their cars again and going about their business, and getting the raw product in to make more of the same stuff, because at the moment the plant is essentially doing nothing because they can't refine anything else because the product isn't coming in, and then they sort of just have to shut everything down. And, you know, that's why we heard all this talk about, you know, the army coming in and opening, but it's not purely as simple as, okay, this is only a fuel issue, or it's about 20-cent increase. There's a lot going on. It's, you know, I think I heard you earlier, I was listening on the way home, you called it a movement. And that's essentially what it is. It's a unrefined movement, let's put it that way. It's a crude movement, much like crude oil. The movement is a crude movement that's kind of amorphous and doesn't have any kind of central leadership. So the guards come in, don't really do anything. They just, you know, park up on Main Street. And so myself and Gary are going around. Gary goes live, and we don't have the fucking ability to do that for some fucking stupid reason with YouTube. But in any event, I have the Zoom camera with me, so there's a lot of footage there. Once I kind of process that and edit it, perhaps we can look back on that during next week, and we can go through it in detail, because, as you know, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot that people aren't talking about that needs to be talked about, that's below the surface of what's actually happening. And so the guards are there, nothing's kind of happening. Then guards move forward in their cars and then block off the entrance to where the protesters are, and then they form a cordon. So now people just simply can't go to where the main protesters are in those two marquees. And so for maybe 20, 30 minutes, everybody's kind of confused with what's actually fucking happening. So we find out after the fact that the guards go up and start to negotiate with the protesters. And it transpires that the negotiation was around releasing 2 tankers of, be it diesel or petrol, for emergency purposes. And so then we, on the other end, see those 2 tankers comes out, and I'm of the mind, okay, well, it's over.
Yeah.
I was convinced, right, the public order unit have gone in, they've given them an ultimatum, listen, get the fuck out, or we're going to beat the shit out of you. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, it's over, we may as well get ready to pack up and go home. But then maybe 10 minutes later, we see a large portion of the protesters, maybe 40, 50 men, come down the road. And then the public order unit lines up across the road, causing a cordon. Now, what happened during the negotiation is that the deal was apparently made, okay, the guys, as a goodwill gesture, now, if anyone ever tries to negotiate with you and asks you to do something as a goodwill gesture, the best negotiating tactic to take is say no. Because there's no such thing as a goodwill gesture. It just means, okay, you've given somebody the upper fucking hand. So the agreement was they would release these 2 tankers as a goodwill gesture to show good faith. And then the guards would apparently retreat, you know, because they just wanted to get these 2 tankers out, because everybody knows people are suffering, people can't get petrol, people are fucking panicking, people are queuing up for, I don't know, days now at this stage trying to get even a spoonful of petrol or diesel. I noticed it, I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before, people have started to panic. And
yesterday, yeah,
I suppose it's to be expected, you know. It's just like, you know, it's human nature to be selfish on that front, and good for your own survival as well. So yeah, these 2 tankers are being released, and the deal was that the 2 tankers would come out, the protesters would check the docket to make sure that these 2 tankers were indeed actually going for relief to the correct places, i.e., you know, going towards hospitals or emergency services. So that was the deal. And the forecourt. Someone told me today, like, there's a problem in the forecourts, and I thought of the actual courts. But then I remembered that petrol stations also have forecourts, and I was trying to make sense of it. How the fuck can the forecourts be considered an emergency service? But anyway, so the two tankers come down. The first guy shows papers. That's great. And then half or maybe 60% of the protesters come down to make sure that there's no fuckery around those two tankers being released.
Okay.
And as they come down, well, then another line of public order goes in behind them, now blocks them off from returning
Oh.
to their previous position. And the two tankers fucking skedaddle out. So they've been duped. So now they can't get back in. So there's maybe 15, 20 men still at those two marquees, but the majority of the protesters have now been isolated from the site.
Gullible Paddy.
Yeah. I know. And this is just because there is no kind of central structure. So we might bemoan the fact that we don't have more French farmers in the country. And that's not, against farmers, but we don't really have a history of well-organized protest in this country. Let's be honest. We don't. And especially in comparison to French farmers, when they have a protest, it's a protest. There's fire and there's shit and there's blood and there's all that good stuff. But that takes a certain type of person, and it takes a commitment. And in Ireland, I think if you're going to protest on that level, you almost need to go in with a commitment that you're willing to fucking die, or at least spend 10 years in prison. And I'm not at that stage yet. I don't think many people are. But when things become harsh enough, I'm sure we will be. So they were duped, and then they're marched down towards away from that site. Maybe 20 minutes after that, a large white van with a trailer behind it carrying crowd barriers appears, then goes up towards the original protesters, puts a physical barrier in place to stop anybody from going back in, places barriers around all the trucks that are there to stop them being moved away. And then a tanker appears that's now going to go in to the oil refinery. So obviously this is all being, pre-planned in advance. So get those two out, cause the distraction, get the guys out of the way, and then we can start moving the crude oil into the plant to be refined.
Yeah.
So all the protesters hold the fucking line, like fair play to them, like they did move. They hold the line. The public order unit moves forward. That tanker then crawls maybe 5 or 10 feet, stops. Then the public order unit moves forward again. Protesters do move a little bit backwards. I don't know if anybody's ever had to stand in front of a line of public order unit guards, but it's pretty fucking intimidating. You're standing literally 15, 20 feet away from them. You're staring each other in the fucking eye. That the guys you're facing, even if there's 50 or 60 men there and there's 10, 20 of them, it's only going to end one way, and that's you're going to get brutalized, you're going to get pepper sprayed, you're going to get the shit beaten out of you, you're going to get dragged into a van, because of how we've been psychologically programmed in this country. You're not going to fight back. Like, you're just going to try and protect yourself, because the moment you fight back against them, it's just worse for you. Like, there's no fair trial about it. It will be a big show trial. Your name and address will be published.
You don't even need to go that far, Morgan. It just comes down to the brass tacks of there's a asymmetric relationship there where they can kick the shit out of you if they want to, but you can't kick the shit out of them if you wanted to. That's just the way it is. Yeah.
It's just the way it is. They have the monopoly on force. Really, that's what it boils down to. So then there was a little bit of that. The tanker would move forward. Some of the protesters went over to the guy driving the tanker to try and reason with him, saying, "Listen, what the fuck are you doing, guy? Just turn around, ring in sick, go away." But the driver wasn't having any of it. So I don't know if the driver was an actual driver from a company. I imagine it's got to be a guard of some description or somebody who actually works for the state, because or maybe a foreign driver. It could be a foreign driver who just doesn't fucking care, has no real connection to the Irish people, or it could just be some fucking scab, who's willing to go ahead and do it. And so as this is happening, then we look back up towards the hill where the Garda arrived in the convoy earlier on, and there's now a convoy of other oil tankers. So they have been waiting off site, maybe 10 or 20 of these oil tankers to come in. So obviously the plan was go in, cause the distraction, and then was to disperse the crowd. But they didn't disperse the crowd for whatever reason. I don't know if they were just waiting that extra bit. I don't really know, because I'm still trying to process, because there's a lot of it that's kind of hokey and doesn't make fucking sense,
Can I hold you up there? Okay, so I don't know if you were listening as you were getting ready and all that, as I was describing my perception of how the Gardaí were conducting themselves, holding themselves in that short clip that I grabbed from Gary's stream.
No.
Okay. Well, it's like, we don't want to really be here. We're not, fucking Newtown, Mount Kennedy, Coolock, straight up and down, arms crossed. We're going to fucking kill you. It's more like, looking over your shoulder and all this. That's not the, what do they call them? The public order unit or whatever.
I don't know. I think they only dip into the Coke bags once they're given the order. So I think they hadn't.
But here's my theory, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just fucking swindled their countrymen. So first of all, they might not actually want to do this, and then they just took part in a swindle, like a switcheroo.
I'm not sure, right? Because we have to remember that one, freezing fucking cold, pissing rain. So everybody looked fucking miserable and uncomfortable, because it was really fucking miserable and uncomfortable. So we were standing in front of them for maybe 2 hours, and then a couple of times we realized that we were kind of the first in the line of protesters, and then had to look at each other and go, hang on a fucking minute. We're supposed to be getting footage, not taking the brunt of a fucking batting charge if it happens. But I did realize, you're right, they didn't show up for combat. And we looked at that document, the one with the Guards document with the 2024 date on it, which I'm thinking might actually just be an error with the stamp.
Yeah.
Rather than an actual fake document, because in that document it did say how they were, what their plan to escalate was. And I noticed that from a lot of the guards there. A couple of them were sour, grumpy cunts, all female, has to be said. Like, there's something about Vanguard is that they're just awful fucking human beings. But generally the tone was conciliatory, to kind of try and engage with the crowd. Again, there was a couple of guys getting into conversation, the usual conversations at a protest, like, how can you fucking do this? Like, what do you actually think about the state of the country, and what do you think about this politician and that politician? And again, the best the Garda can do is say, look, they would say, I don't have an opinion, which what they're really saying is that they're not allowed, they can't express a personal opinion, because it's part of their job, that they can't be seen to be partisan. And that's a good way for a Garda to be. And the problem we have is that we have a particularly partisan government who, unfortunately, the Guards will do whatever they're told. But you're right, it wasn't in the same vein as the public order unit as we saw them in Coolock or Newtown, Mount Kennedy. They didn't come dressed for a fight. So it's kind of, they were in their kind of gentlemanly attire. So they didn't have their helmets present. They didn't have batons present. Not to say that they weren't there. Of course they were there. They're in one of the other vans, because remember, there's 3 public order unit vans there. So we essentially get, grade 1 of the public order unit, which is to try and intimidate and move the crowd on just by the fact that, oh fuck, it's the public order unit. There you can see them there, perfect.
I,
So we can see.
I don't know though. You say
So
that they
if you imagine
didn't.
there's a line of these guys across the road.
No, here, look. What's this? That's not the dude's dick. That's a stick, man.
Yeah, so that's pepper spray. That's kind of
Oh,
the small
oh,
canisters
okay.
of
Oh,
pepper spray.
right. Okay. Fair
Could
enough.
may well be an extendable baton. What I'm talking about is if you think of basically full
Mm,
riot gear, like in
mm.
Newtown Mount Kennedy or
Yeah.
Coolock, when they have the full riot, when
And
they
the
have the
helmets and
large
shit.
kind of,
Yeah.
6 foot fucking batons, So it could be it could be an extendable baton, but to my eyes, it was kind of the small canisters of pepper spray. There was one public order unit guard in the centre, who had the large canister of pepper spray, which was probably all that would be needed at that stage.
Yeah.
I imagine if
True.
anything had have kicked off at the stage, well, then they would have got reinforced fairly quickly. They would have fallen back, got into the gear, and then all fucking hell for leather would have broke loose.
Ah.
And one guy had a taser. If you can see that kind of old looking guy, pretty much in the center there with the cap on and the beard, he had a taser. And let's not forget that the public order unit have now been authorized to use tasers,
Lovely.
just in case the industrial strength pepper spray doesn't work. It works better if 10,000 volts are shooting through your body at the same time. Kind of like seasoning for the citizen, put a bit of pepper on them first and then gently roast them for a couple of minutes. So yeah, again, beyond that, no kind of conversation with the crowd. RTE and various journalists were kind of milling around trying to interview people. Nobody really wanted to talk to them at all. And then at the last kind of push forward that the public order unit made, Ivor appeared out of nowhere on top of the fucking oil tanker and raised the tricolour, which was fucking brilliant because now the tanker can't move forward, because to move forward with a man standing on top of an oil tanker would be very dangerous, and the optics of him falling off because they've tried to fucking bring a tanker into the refinery would be terrible. So for maybe an hour, 2 hours, complete stalemate. So the public order unit didn't move a foot forward. Protesters didn't move a foot back. Everybody just stood there for 2 hours in the sopping, pissing, fucking rain with gale force winds, staring at each other. Everybody probably thinking the same thing, like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, there's no real need for this at all. I'm sure public order unit all looked miserable as fuck standing there in the rain. There was giggles between them. And but you can tell at a moment's notice, like, if the order is given, they'll switch straight into work mode, and they will charge. It looked a couple of times that they were actually going to charge, because their commanders would come up to them every now and again, give orders, talk into various people's ears, move certain people into different positions within the line. So you see those kind of uniform guards on the well, at least to my right there anyway. They would move them in and out of the public order unit members. And then eventually they had all public order units lined up completely across the road. They took a side stance towards people, and it looked at that moment in time that they were about to get the order to, again, push forward, but they didn't. And I can only imagine it's because Ivor was on top of the truck, waving the tricolour. So after about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, they gave the driver the order to reverse the truck backwards. Because Ivor was, roiling up the crowd, like, and he's giving the crowd a great bit of crack, and he was screaming like "fuck the globalists." People did mention to RTE, like, if you want to interview somebody, go up and interview Ivor. But the RTE reporter said, "No, I can't. He's too extreme for us." So I know, right? Can you imagine, like, too extreme for RTE? Wow. Yeah, and then there's a bit of there's a little bit of commotion in the crowd. Some old fucking dude. I don't know who he was.
I remember him on Gary's stream. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were standing there, like, and we seeing this guy. So, Gary goes over to see what he's saying, and then he's doing the shame thing, like the usual stuff. You're not from this town. You're going to ruin Mitchell's town. There'll be nothing left in the town. There'll be no fuel. People will turn against you. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong, because people eventually will turn in some way, shape, or form. I felt it myself on the way home, because I got stuck behind a slow fucking protest on the way home, and I was so fucking tired and so fucking wet. And doing fucking 1 kilometer an hour and riding the clutch in the fucking car. Yeah, I don't know how. Like the tractors must have some. Well, they have to plow the field, so they must have some fucking gearing system that allows them to travel at 1 kilometer an hour.
Yeah.
But the fucking dashboard in the car is pinging up, saying, the clutch is too hot. Please stop the car and pull over to let the clutch cool down. I can't do that because I'm in the middle of a fucking slow moving convoy, and it's Cork, so of course, to make things worse, we're on a fucking hill, and so that's putting extra pressure on the clutch.
Oh no!
The clutch burning. I can smell the clutch burning. I'm looking at the fucking petrol, diminish fucking liter by liter, just sitting there thinking, right, I'm never going to get to a fucking station. If I do, there's going to be no fuel. And then, I'm almost screaming at the guys in the tractors, like, you're ruining the fucking country. Like, there'll be no petrol in the forecourts in the morning. But it's one of those things. We're just going to have to fucking suck it up and deal with it, because there's bigger issues afoot than people's personal luxury.
Yeah.
At the moment, the thing I found very interesting. There's no leadership, or no visible leadership at any rate, at the protest. So there's nobody to actually negotiate with. At least nobody visible. Maybe somebody within the group who is indeed a figurehead, but I couldn't figure out who it was from the short time there. I'm not sure what the demands are, because there seems to be a kind of I don't even know if it's a loose-knit, larger collective of groups, or if it's just individual groups. Doesn't really make sense either way, unless it's like some sort of contagion where there's one protest and then other guys have a protest. But the farming community is pretty interconnected, and the haulage industry is pretty interconnected as well. So there has to be some level of leadership within it. What their demands are. And I heard guards asking, they were trying to fish information from people. And one guard was trying to fish information from Gary. Like, he was asking Gary, are you with the protest? And I don't think Gary actually answered. The way you talk to a guard, you answer in a roundabout fashion, but you don't actually say anything. But then the guard took it that Gary was, and he's asking Gary, well, what's the end game here? And Gary was, just talking about the price of fuel, and that the government's raping the country and stuff like that. And then the guard kind of left it at that. But I don't know. I don't know if the demand is simply going to be what's good for the haulage industry, what's good for the farming sector, which is, either a direct reduction in the costs of diesel to them, if it's going to be a case of some increase in the fuel rebate scheme to them, and then they're generally happy with that. But not that it can't be that, but it shouldn't just be that, because it's not really just a fuel issue that has people up in arms. Like, there's been issues with fuel in this country going all the way back to fucking, COVID, and then fucking Ukraine. So, people can, kind of take that in and of itself. Oh, well, fuel's gone up like in the last fucking decade from what it's almost doubled, if not fucking more, I even remember at the height of COVID, when nobody was purchasing fuel, it was down to €1.11. Obviously the price of a barrel of oil was fucking dirt cheap at that stage, and that was still with hefty taxes on it. And then we have the increase in carbon tax coming down the line as well. But it's not just it's a fuel issue. It's a complete cost of living issue, on top of the fact that we're run by a fucking, I don't even know if they're tyrannical. I'm kind of leaning towards the fact that they're just buffoons. because either buffoons or incredible fucking actors. Because I saw Jim O'Callaghan when he was, describing the protest and how they were being manipulated, and his justification was that Tommy Robinson is manipulating the protesters in Ireland by tweeting about the protest and using those protests for his own advantage in the UK to kind of, gee up his fucking crowd of people who follow him. So I don't know. I'm sure there are interests, and there's bigger questions around. There's obviously in the circles we travel, it's like, well, what's the hidden thing here? Like, what are we not fucking seeing here? Like, is there some sort of conspiracy? And if there is there any way that we can prove it? To my mind, it's like, well, who the fuck are all these new people now that are appearing out of nowhere? Who are the leaders of this kind of the farming contingent? Who are the hauliers? And I don't say that to cast shade on them or to shit on it, or it's just so many times in this country people have got their hopes up massively, like, well, this is it. This is finally it. Only, at the last hurdle to be fucking sold out again and again and again. And I see a lot of people getting their hopes up, like, well, this is finally the revolution we've been looking for. But as things stand, it's a protest that is being run by farmers and hauliers with the express goal of having their costs reduced. And that obviously feeds into the rest of us because, we're heavily dependent on farmers for food. We're dependent on hauliers for food. I was looking at kind of statistics about what we import and what we don't. So I think something like 70 or 80% of all our fruits and vegetables are pretty much imported. Most of those come from Spain. And I've some experience in the haulage industry myself, not a lot, but I've enough to know what happens like. So and again, all the large haulage companies in Ireland, they all have depots in Spain, and if they can, they will fill up in Spain, because no businessman is going to want to, okay, well, I import goods from Spain on a daily basis, and I send a fucking 120 trucks over a week to bring fruit and vegetable in from Spain. Well, then you're not going to fucking, fill up your trucks when you're in Ireland, when you can save a small fortune by filling them up in Spain. But beyond that, from a local's perspective, there's a lot of haulage that goes on just within Ireland and Ireland and the UK as well. And we're going to have to swallow that increase in prices, because from my time in the haulage industry, anytime there's an increase in the price of fuel or anything, it just gets added on to the cost of haulage to whoever is requesting the truck to go and pick something up.
And then, you just don't get less profit? You really? You pass that on to the next guy? Wow.
Yeah, I know, it's shocking, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know, it's like that doesn't sound very fair, does it? Yeah, you don't just swallow it and then have your business go bust, or have to let 50 or 60 people go. No, it gets passed on, and then in turn it gets passed on, and in turn it gets passed on, and in turn it gets passed on.
I don't think it's just the farmers and the haulers that are, rather, I don't think it's just themselves looking out for themselves. That's not the rhetoric that I'm hearing. And from my perspective, is that enough people know that, have heard that rhetoric and have supported them. Like, you have this GoFundMe. Like, I don't know why people fell for this. 10 grand plus in 3 days, right? To support these guys, right? So if they walk away from a meeting with the government saying, oh, okay, no carbon tax on green diesel, or something like this, we're going to say, well, hang the fuck on. Maybe we're going to start fucking driving our fucking cars in front of your tractors now.
Yeah.
You
Well, see,
know?
this is what kind of struck me. I was kind of a little bit shocked that the government negotiated with them in the first place. Because it's a terrible precedent to set for a government
Well,
to
negotiated
negotiate
with who?
with a faction like so.
Well, I mean, they
Like
negotiated with the what are they called? The unions, but they didn't negotiate with the protesters. No.
well, no, but because what I know they'll always negotiate with the unions because they're properly constituted bodies. And if you're
Yeah.
running a state, you can't really just start negotiating with anybody who shows up and has a fucking protest.
Well, yeah.
But these guys who were in Dublin weren't, as far as I'm now, I may be wrong, but as far as I'm aware, they're not affiliated with any union.
No, they were
Like, so
disowned
they're
by their
not part of
unions.
the.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they said they got like that was their deal to remove the trucks from O'Connell Street was that they would have a meeting
From what
with
I
government.
heard, nothing was removed from O'Connell Street. Like we have
Okay, but
what fucking one of our regular chatters, he was there since Thursday, and he said no, nothing was removed since from O'Connell Street.
okay. Well, I was watching the guy last night, and he gave an announcement.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we don't have a fucking back channel to see what exactly is going on, but
Yeah.
from his mouth, and he was speaking to the crowd, and he said to the crowd, "Okay, we've secured a meeting with various government ministers, and as a goodwill gesture, what they were going to do is remove the vehicles from O'Connell Street onto the quays, and then." Beyond that, he said, now, I believe there's another convoy heading towards Dublin. What they do, I don't fucking know. And whatever happens in the rest of the country, I don't know. So this really is, from a politics point of view, why a government shouldn't. And this isn't a moral judgment. So this is me saying, like, take a time with the government. From a governance point of view, you shouldn't negotiate with factions because they've set a precedent now. Well, okay, they've negotiated with this small faction. So now, as if you say there's another separate faction that is now blocking O'Connell Street, well, then by extension, they will have to fucking, negotiate with them. And then that sets a further precedent for any grouping within the country. Well, now all I have to do to get the government's attention and bring them to the bargaining table is to shut down X, Y, or Z. So I was very surprised that the government did that, unless they were somehow misguided that if they have this meeting with this particular group, and that group, in their view, that group represents all other groups, which it couldn't be, because from Micheál Martin's own mouth 2 days ago, he said that expressly, that, we will only negotiate with properly constituted bodies. Well, and of course, when Micheál Martin opens his mouth.
Sorry, what I saw yesterday was, what was it, prime time or some shit. This fella, the leader, I guess, he said, I've secured a negotiation with the government tomorrow.
Okay.
And then later on in that broadcast, I don't know what minister he is. I don't pay attention to these things. He said, I never heard of anything like that. But, if the unions want to bring someone, then they can bring someone. So
okay, yeah.
There's a bit of fuckery going on here. And it's possible that this faction, right, did actually negotiate with the government today. But what they're telling us is that they didn't.
Okay. Yeah. I think for the next 2 weeks, it's going to be horribly confusing. We're dealing with lots of different groups. If we're learning anything about negotiations at the moment on a geopolitical scale, they're very tricky. They never really go according to plan. But beyond that, so if we want to get into kind of conspiracy for a moment, not wild fucking conspiracy, but we were kind of in the chat saying the other night that this kind of situation really suits the government when you think about it, right? So there is going to be a large amount of people who will get pissed off. There's no two ways about it. If there's no fuel, if they can't get to work, if they can't earn a wage, if they have to bring, to see elderly people, if, home visits, all that stuff happens. Like, people get really fucking pissed off, right? Now, if it's a case where initially it's like, okay, well, our government are just fucking raping us. And then, you would have a mass movement of all people who would get onto the streets and, demand that the government be removed for essentially mismanaging the economy. But in place of that, if you can get a kind of a smaller movement with a smaller aim, which is just to reduce certain taxes for these particular groups, and then either give them those concessions, they get their concessions, and then the problem goes away. So then there's this kind of idea in people's mind, well, finally somebody's brought the government to heel. But the vast majority of private citizens benefit nothing from it because, I'm not going to be included in any fucking deal. You're not going to be included in any deal. The vast majority of private and public sector workers aren't going to see any reduction in price at all. Beyond that, if we look at refineries, so we can imagine a scenario where the Irish government simply hasn't been able to secure oil or petrol, diesel, kerosene. They know that the supply will run out in 10, 15, 20 days if things don't improve in the Middle East and the supply chain is brought back to a normal state of affairs. And then you can just fucking say, well, we're trying everything. And that's the rhetoric that I'm seeing from Micheál Martin now as well, and the likes, is that we have all this beautiful oil waiting, just waiting to come into the country. And we can't get it out to our nurses and our frontline staff who need it desperately because these people simply won't allow it in. It's completely irrational because they have no demands as such. We've no one we can negotiate with. So not only can we not negotiate with anybody, we don't know what their fucking demands are. And they refuse to allow us in. Now, if they were serious, and I'm sure if anyone can kind of game it in their head, if it was even on a familial level, if there was a group of people blocking the functioning of your family, and you had at your disposal a group of 20 men with big sticks and chemical weapons and electricity who you could call in at a moment's notice and get these guys out of the fucking way so your family survives, you would do it. But it may not be as simple as that. It may be then there's a knock-on effect. Like, the optics of that are fucking horrible. Let's face it. So, there's kind of...
There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of... And one I would add is that there is a large contingent of our society, and yes, that may change when, I can't fill my car to get to work, or I can't eat. That that is the thing. But there is a large contingent who are of the mind that this isn't a problem with Irish people. It's a problem with the state. And it is a problem with this faraway fucking nutcase who decided to destroy the world on the behest of Israel. Like, this is a common piece of understanding that is going around in the country, and it transcends a lot of demographics. I don't think, like, if this was some kind of ploy to get out of jail free, it's just going to make matters worse. And this is a human experience, right? Where, you're fucked. You fucked up bad. Like, I'm talking like decades ago, you fucked up bad. And now the chickens are coming home to roost because of something someone else did 5,000 fucking miles away. And you're left holding this hot potato. So what do? You do something fucking stupid to hope that you don't face the consequences. And then you end up facing even bigger fucking consequences because what you did is, you're just dipping your hand in the Pandora's box and hoping that what you pull out is the answer to all your hopes and dreams, Like, I have this incredibly strong sense, and here on the camera we're seeing the Grim Reaper, by the way. um, oh yeah, you can't see that, Morgan. Uh, I have this incredible sense that, hang on, I'm a big conspiracy theorist, but I've come to the point where I think, no, actually, this is all too fucking complicated for even a group of geniuses to grapple with, because you're dealing with many groups of geniuses who are trying to get their own way, to game the system themselves. So you're just kind of, punching that Pandora's box, and you're just making things even more chaotic, and the whole thing may just fall apart.
Yeah, well, it's the problem with all, we've discussed this, fucking many times. The problem with all conspiracy theories is that, they're all unfalsifiable, and, that's really it. So all we can do is speculate about it, as regards to, Trump and that. I see, mostly online, a lot of people are kind of angry at the protesters, and telling them that what you should be doing is going to the American embassy and protesting there, as if that would actually make a fucking difference. Then the point is actually being lost on the people that it's being directed at, because what they're really trying to say is, look, this is not entirely a government issue. There are bigger things at play here, and that bigger thing at play is basically the American hegemon, which is in fucking Iran, essentially doing what it's always done, which is empire. And people get outraged, and rightly so. I honestly don't, because I just accept it as a fact. It's morally abhorrent, but it's a fact of global politics. I wish it wasn't like that. I wish it was a case where people and countries could just operate on the basis of trade, and realize that, well, it's actually better for humankind and flourishing if we just agree to trade with each other and not war with each other. But the problem with that, it's very idealistic, and it would work if everybody was a good actor, and apply the same rules to themselves and others. But it's very easy to just go, you know what, I can take all your shit because I can, and I have, and that's the basis of how I run my empire. And if the American empire vanished tomorrow, it would be some other fucking empire that would step in and do it. Let's be honest. And that's not to justify what America's doing, but America are killing people, Russians are killing people, other people are killing other people. It's a sad fucking reality of life that murder and war are a part of life. As horrible as it is, I don't condone it, but it is a fact. And then what's happening on the right is that nobody's paying any attention to what anyone else on the left is saying, because we've reached this kind of point now where, like, lefty, righty, fucking wrongy, righty, it's ridiculous, people can't talk, and they're not going to talk, and it's probably pointless trying to get them to come to some understanding of, it's like, okay, well, what can we agree on? We can't, because essentially I think what we're looking at with what we classify as left and right, we're looking at two fucking completely opposing worldviews and moral systems. And I think a lot of people, hang on, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, it happens. You're tired.
Left versus right.
Yep.
I'm fucking exhausted. Rewind me back. What the fuck was I saying? Like,
warfare, Middle East.
Yeah, a lot of people on the left and the right. Yeah, so they're not going to come to any sort of fucking agreement on it. And I think a lot of people just realize, or at least the impression I'm getting, is that things in the Middle East, it's miles outside their sphere of influence.
Oh, yeah.
So while they realize that, yes, that the costs are because of what's happening in the Middle East, and then people can justify whatever fucking way they want. Oh well, it's it's the American hegemon. It's their, what they're trying to do is free the poor people of Iran. They're trying to get rid of a dictator. They're trying to get rid of a nuclear weapon, and that could be true, but it's not. What it's doing is securing empire. It's securing the wealth of that nation for, the American hegemon. And that's it. And from, I suppose from a political point of view, like that's, or from a Machiavellian point of view, not a political one, that's a good leader in fucking virtue, not virtue, but virtue. And, if we say, well, if the Chinese are doing everything they can do to secure the future of their country, be it by hook or crook, and we can say the same about Putin, about everything he does in Ukraine, is that all above board? Is that all perfect? No. But we can recognize that what he's doing, be it for good or ill or evil, that they all fucking murder, and we're all capable of murder too, that they're securing it for their own nation. When we look at our own nation, it's like we have blancmange. It's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? It's like we're dealing with managers from fucking middle managers from Tesco's or something. It's like, what are you actually fucking doing? I don't know. Like, I don't know what these guys are fucking doing. I don't know if they just feel like they don't have to do anything because everything is already, figured out from at a higher level. But I really don't fucking know. And it's horribly confusing, especially for the average person like us on the fucking street, because we don't have access to back channels. We don't know what's being said in back rooms. What we do know is that there's something horribly fucking wrong, and the country isn't our own. There's 100 different fucking problems. There's no visible party in sight that seems to be able to solve them, or even seems to fucking give a flying fuck about any of them, really. Like, if we were to have a general election tomorrow, like, who would we vote for? A handful of independents? And at this stage, that's got to be better than what we fucking have. Let's be honest. Like, it's because it just needs to fucking change, and I don't care if that means the country dies on its arse economically. It just has to fucking change. It can't. It can't continue.
We're very close in our thinking here, because you know what, I'm feeling very accelerationist right now. Because the thing is that we are dying very, very, very slowly. We're just being murdered slowly. And the cretins that manage us, this regime, managerial class, they're just going to enslave our children and their children and on and on. And wouldn't it just be better if we just fucking destroyed the whole thing? What is that? I remember this, right? I couldn't tell you what mythological cycle or whatever it's from, but I just remember it from primary school of this this battle where a fella was, just slain by a fella on a horse, and he grabbed his killer's locks and just dragged him into the water with him and drowned him as he died. I think it's one of the kind of Christian era mythological stories of Ireland. But this is what we need to do. Just fucking destroy it all.
And I don't know.
I think there's something like this going on right now, right? Now, someone in the chat said there's a media blackout around Whitegate, right? So that means that there's something there worth hiding, or, wait, I forget how they worded it. But, either way, it's substantial. Like, either it's too big on our side, or it's too big on their side. I'll put it like that. Like, they don't want to touch it. If it was a thing of, like, where they're building up this narrative of, like, oh, look at these fucking greedy farmers. They're cutting off the, like, lifeblood of the economy by blocking Whitegate. It would be, like, everywhere today in the media, right? But, we're to this day, we're seeing headlines of, it'll be a few weeks now, and we won't have food or energy. No mention of Whitegate. What's going on there that they don't want to talk about it? Something is it's
I don't know.
striking
I
me
haven't
that
had a
it's
chance to look at media.
right. I've come across probably the bigger headlines about today, and very little. Like I haven't seen Whitegate mentioned at all. I haven't seen it. So what I
Okay.
think is going on here, at the very least, is that the managerial class is freaking out. Like they don't know what to do.
Okay,
That's
maybe.
my opinion.
If there's right for my mind, like if there's a media blackout at the moment, well, I tell you today, first of all, Virgin Media were down there all day today. RTE were down there all day today with
All
two
right.
cameras and a reporter. So for whatever reason they're down there, they have footage. We know without shadow of a doubt, it's a
Fair.
full on propaganda outfit that really doesn't bear need saying. But they are down there. They have footage. If there's a media blackout, what first comes to my mind is that they're going to take the people out of there, right? So that and again, it makes sense to me. If I was running a fucking public order unit and I wanted to keep things as quiet as possible, I would do it when it's fucking dark. People have been standing in the rain and cold all fucking day. Can you
Hmm.
imagine, like when we were there for like maybe 4 or 5 hours? There's guys who've been there like fucking days now.
Hmm.
There's guys there who were saying like they're not leaving. They're bringing tents. They're going to stay on the road all night. They're going to stand there for fucking
Mm-hmm.
and like I was standing there for 3 or 4. I was amazed I didn't fucking collapse because normally I can't stand for more than like a half an hour. But I think it was just because it was so fucking cold and wet that I was just in shock. Um, but you stand there all night, like people are going to drift eventually through attrition just because of the
Yep.
cold and the rain and the fucking
Yep.
miserableness of it, all right? But these guys are pretty fucking determined, but still their numbers will dwindle. They're
Mm-hmm.
rotating the public order unit every 3 hours. They're well fed and they
Yeah.
have their support unit, so they can change them out every couple of fucking hours. Protesters don't have that, they have the kindness of other people within the town.
Mm.
So if it's a case where it gets to 2 o'clock in the morning, people are just, they're tired, they don't have their wits about them. Well, then the public order could simply, push in and disperse them. We all know agent provocateurs are rife, so all it's going to take
Yep.
really to disperse the crowd is to put 3 or 4 people in there. But I'm like everyone else, I'm confused because I thought if that was going to happen, which I think is your suspicion as well, it would have happened kind of lost, like they don't know what to fucking do because like they might be stupid. It's not like they don't have intelligent people around them. They all have advisors. They have a whole fucking civil service behind them.
Mm-hmm.
They've run scenarios left, right, and centre. They have think tanks that they can access to. They have the whole of their European colleagues who are well versed in this. They have their colleagues across the pond to us, the fucking UK. They have access to the PNSNI. They have access to the, intelligence services in the
Yeah.
UK.
Yeah.
So it's
I
not like
yeah. I think right. We've mistaken quant thing of conspiracy theories that you give more credence to the initiators of the conspiracy than they actually are worth. And like, for first of all, right, the idea of conspiracy theory, it's retarded, really. Like, you're all you're saying is, well, I think these people who talk often are doing something that might actually be maleffective to me. And usually, in human experience, if there are people who talk often and they have something to do with you and they're not talking to you, well, then generally what they're talking about has something to do with you that isn't positive. So like, this is just it. The European Union, all these think tanks, UN, all these NGOs, all these advisors, yeah, they're working towards something beneficial to us. And this is the same thing as conspiracy it's just couched in a way of only conspiracy theory has this problem of seeing others as much more intelligent than they are, much more together than they are. No, this is just humans. Like, can we take a look at
Well,
Trump?
hang on.
Can
it's not
I
just humans,
finish?
like there are.
What, fucking aliens? What
Well,
are you
don't
talking
start
about?
losing your fucking shit with me just because I fucking interjected. Like,
I'd like to finish my thought. That's all.
okay, well,
All right.
Go
An
for it.
example to support my thought, right? Trump, he has loads of advisors. Didn't stop him from making probably the most retarded decision that a US president has done so far in the history of the United States. You know, like, he is going to go down as the most disastrous, notwithstanding anything that came before Iran, president of the United States. Because he has been surrounded so far by advisors who've been saying, "Nah, it's okay, man. You know, it's totally cool. Yeah. Post that. Post your threats of genocide, to the whole world. Yeah, that's a good idea, man." There's a lot of bullshitters
okay, can I
out
talk
here,
now at some stage? Can I talk at some
okay.
stage?
I'm finished now. Go on.
Okay, but that presupposes that you know the final outcome.
What do you mean final
Like, that's like
outcome?
special pleading on your behalf that you somehow have access.
Oh, their
Like
agendas.
You're presupposing that you know
what their agenda is. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, and it presupposes that you know that Trump has made the biggest mistake, that somehow you have access to know what the actual goal is of not just Trump
Morgan.
and his advisors, but,
At some point, we have to collapse the wave function, man. We have to be able to at least stand on some solid fucking ground that's somewhere in the universe.
But what's solid about
and then what happens is, if days, weeks, months, years pass, and it turns out that the ground that we thought was solid wasn't solid after all, then you know what? We'll fucking reconfigure our assumptions about the world, and we'll stand somewhere else. And that's the best we can do, right? But what you're saying is here, don't stand anywhere. Just be completely always wondering what's going on.
You're straw manning me. I'm not. I didn't say once. I didn't say once.
Okay,
don't stand anywhere.
Okay.
I said you're presupposing that you know what the plans are.
Yeah, well, that's a part of the ground that I'm currently standing on. Okay, all right. There's loads of things that people think that they don't know for sure. You know what I know for sure is that I can see a candle in front of me. It's burning.
What?
I can see. Well, I know that I know you, for instance. I've met you before. You're a real human being. It's very limited. What I know for sure, what I can nail down for absolute certainty, it's quite limited compared to all the stuff that's out there in the world. But I have to make a determination at some point about things that I don't know for sure, right?
But what's the determination based on, though? And I think that's what we're missing. Like, so we all have biases.
Yeah.
And we all default to certain positions under stressful situations, right?
Okay.
And I'm just saying, like, I don't want to have an unreasonable argument with you.
Oh yeah.
But
of course,
to presuppose that you kind of know what the plan is for Trump, or that you have access to his mind or access to his advisor's mind, is not rational. And it wouldn't be rational for me either to say, well, I have access to his mind, or I know exactly what the plan is. None of us do.
Okay.
And much like we could turn the script on someone like on a Putin, we can say, like, you got half people who are diehard Russia files where, Putin can do no wrong in Russia. Every act he
Yep.
does is, a good act. His war is a justified war,
Mm-hmm.
and people can bring forward, justifications for that. And the same people do that. They're more aligned with our own personal ideologies, and I don't think any of us are immune from that. But
Okay.
for me, when I hear people say like, well, they somehow know that this is the worst thing that could possibly happen, I just can't let it go, or then to question it, to somehow be, shamed, or then to have somebody label you as a a rightist, or have me label you as a leftist, or whatever. Like, it doesn't actually help us. Like, it doesn't actually.
I don't know what's going on.
It's a bit choppy. I can hear you there now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, man. My internet or my connection through OBS dropped, and then the Restream connections dropped for some reason, which is weird because that's not dependent on my internet. It's all very weird. But you can still hear me, yeah?
Yeah, I can hear you good now.
All right. So whenever Genghis Khan was riding around Asia and Europe, just destroying things and spreading the seed, and we're two fucking Celts sitting around the fire, and we heard fucking stories of this guy, and I started surmising about what Genghis Khan really wants. Then you can fucking tell me, oh, you don't really know what's going on in his head. But the thing is that when it comes to Trump, when it comes to the regime, I have stock in what these powers believe. Like, they affect my life in very profound ways. I think it's kind of important that I have the luxury of settling on an assumption based on like a mosaic of my life experiences, media that I've consumed, etc., so that I can actually fucking stand in one place and be able to like make a determination about other things through that lens, like, yeah, but
course,
like that's not what I'm claiming.
Anybody could say that about anything.
That's not what I'm claiming. I'm not claiming that I know.
What are you claiming then?
Well, now we're going to have to reverse back to before we had this philosophical conversation about epistemology. Like, what's going on in the world and how does it affect us? I'm pretty certain that the people advising our government probably haven't a fucking clue what's going on in the world. Like, I think they're kind of cloistered in their own. And we've lost connection again.
In what way? I'm not following. Like, what do you mean they only see what they want to see?
Well, bringing it back home to where stupid decisions, and we see that
we're faced with the same crisis. There's a whole fucking process like that, and we do have this fuel that's offshore, so we have some supplies, refinery to process it, so the country can continue to function on an everyday level, because it will have knock-on effects. Like, it will affect the economy. It is going to mean that fuel is going to have to be rationed. There's plans going back fucking 10-20 years to do this, and for a government not to have them would be negligent, because we don't know. We don't have our own supply of fuel. We could have if we had a competent government, like, who actually cared about the people. We would, but unfortunately we don't. So we're heavily dependent on outside factors. But we have this particular commodity available to us now, but we have a problem that we need to get it into this one refinery that we have,
Yep.
and we need to process it into kerosene, petrol, and diesel. Otherwise, the country will come to a halt, and it is going to have knock-on effects. And that will mean that, those processors will have to be pulled out of there. If not by the public order unit, well then by the army proper. If we leave it as it stands, I don't think it's better anyway. We're still going to have shortages in the forecourts. We're not going to somehow manage to parachute fucking tankers of fuel in. And then people will get hungry. And if you take it to its logical end, well then, there is a fucking war, man against man, and you get that wish of everything just comes crashing down. And that just causes fucking
misery,
untold suffering for everybody. Like, so misery, death, actual fucking famine. So what do we do? What do you do? And again, taking into account that there's no other outside factors, there's no conspiracy, there's no, we haven't decided, okay, well, we're doing this under the guise of something else, some grand plan to depopulate the planet or anything like that. Just, this is a fucking problem that's landed on our desk.
Right.
We're, pretty much as we are now, we have our same faculties about us, our same intellect, and we have access to others who are more intelligent than us, because there are more intelligent people than us. There are more competent people than us.
Yep.
People aren't the fucking same on all levels. Everybody's has competencies, and there's, fucking hundreds of thousands of people in this country who are more competent than me in, many, many fields. So what do we fucking do?
Yeah, I get it. Okay. All right. So
what do you do?
All right. Well, like I want to ask you about the rules of this simulation, right? So are we the same guys who, as you admitted, that we don't have a proper fuel thing, where like 10 years ago, was it now, where we sold a gas field to Shell.
All that's happened. To give a political,
Sorry?
That's besides the point. All that's happened.
No, it's not beside the point. Everything... No. We sold a gas field to Shell, and then it turned out there was fucking oil there. All right? Like, are we the same guys that did that?
We're in government.
Okay.
With the problem that faces us today. So everything that's happened in the past has happened. Nothing else has changed. We just find ourselves in the situation of having to deal with.
Oh, you're transplanting us into that situation. Oh, okay. Okay, I get it now.
What do you do? What do you...
I don't know, man. Fucking... hang on. I'd find the biggest travel bag I can find and stuff it full of euros and get the fuck out of here. I'm sorry, but there's no winning fucking answer here, really, is there? Like, okay, yeah, you can arrange then this elaborate conspiracy where you say to this fucking random farmer, hey, would you, lead this contingent within the farmers and haulier kind of community to pose this false set of demands, and we'll kind of go through this dance with you of like, oh, will they, won't they? I'll give you a bit of this, you give me a bit of that, and maybe if we just rearrange these shells for long enough to, do Paddy to not realize that he's fucked, that maybe some miracle might happen, that, the Hormuz Strait will open up and we'll be okay again. Did I lose you? Oh, this is garbage. How is this internet so bad today? It's incredible. Can't have a feckin' conversation with this guy because the internet is just fucked. I'm going to run a troubleshooter on my Wi-Fi so the stream will drop for a few minutes.